G'day, FIDE Master John Curtis, and today I'm going to give you something very, very special. I'm going to look at the game of Joseph Henry Blackburne in a game he played in a blindfold chess match against an unknown player. We don't know his name at this stage. It was played in Kiddermeister, England in 1863. And as it was, Joseph Henry Blackburne was known as the Black Death, and players feared him because he was so brilliant. He had wins in the 1860s over people like Anderson, Steinitz, we know the Steinitz Defence, Paulson, Zukertort. You know, these were the top players of the time in the world. Chigorin, we know the Chigorin Defence. Tarrasch, the Tarrasch opening, Teichmann, Lasker, Emmanuel Lasker, one of the greatest world champions of all. He'd beaten him too. Pillsbury, I think we've heard of Pillsbury before, and Marshall, we know the Marshall Gambit, the Marshall attack in the Roy Lopez variation, and Nimzovitch, the Nimzovitch Defence. So these players were actually creating all the openings and everything else that we know today. And Blackburne, whom we hear little of, he was a giant killer. He destroyed these people. And I'm going to show you the brilliance of the man in this game. Okay, so it's a blindfold chess masterpiece. It's a Danish Gambit that he plays. Let's have a look at it. Okay, so Blackburne's white. It's a Simultaneous, and he's blindfolded. He's wearing a blindfold, for God's sake. So, I mean, really, it's hard enough to play chess, let alone play blindfold. Anyway, the black plays pawn takes pawn. And, okay, he might be a beginner, but still, to play blindfold against somebody is very, very difficult. Like you've only got to make one mistake. And let's have a look at the accuracy here. So white plays bishop c4. Black's actually better according to the engine. And Blackburne, the Black Death, plays bishop c4 and eyes the f7 square here, right? The weakest square on the board. And Black plays d6, which is a good solid move. And white recaptures with the knight on c3. Now this is a book position, okay? Now, we wonder how we can get a brilliancy out of such a plain game, but knight c6, white plays knight f3. Now here is where black started to go wrong. He tried to swap, his plan was, I'm going to just swap off pieces against this fellow and try to get an even game. So he played knight to e5, with the idea of, if he takes my knight, I can recapture, we can change queens. And then it's going to be a real long game. It'd be hard for him to remember the position, and I might be able to get a draw or beat the master. So that's what the beginner's thinking that's playing the Simul. Anyway, Blackburne, being Blackburne, he just takes the knight. He's not worried about exchanges. Now, this is a blindfold position, and now Blackburne, in his mind, he sees this move. Bishop takes pawn check. Now, if the king takes the bishop, right? If the king takes the bishop, the queen is forfeited because the white queen's attacking the black queen. Okay, so black moves king to e7. It's the strongest and best move, okay, and the only move in the board. So white checks. He gives a big giant bishop check to the black king, okay? Only one move, otherwise you're going to lose your queen, is knight to f6, okay? That's the only move available. Now, queen to h5. Blackburne is not interested in changing queens. Blackburne wants more because he's got all this position in his mind. He's got probably got his blindfold on or whatever. We might have even been playing in another room, I don't know. It was 1863, it was a long time ago. Anyway, black plays c6. Black correctly assesses that he's got to get his king out of there, and he's trying to prepare to make a bolt hole so he can run to the other side. And run to the other side he does, but let's see what happens. Rook to d1 attacks the queen, okay? The queen gets out to a4. It's probably the best move on the board. And now white plays f4, okay? White plays f4. And now black has to think of a reply. What can he do? He can't play bishop hits queen. It looks like a good move. He can't play bishop hits queen, because if he plays bishop hits queen, the queen can take the bishop off because the knight's pinned. So he can't do that. Okay, so let's see what he does. He plays queen to c5. He's thinking, well, maybe Blackburne won't see this. The old Black Death won't see the big check here. Okay, so, but he overlooks that when the pawn takes the pawn, you can't check because the bishop covers the square. Anyway, he takes the pawn off and everything looks reasonably safe until Blackburne finds this move. Castles. Now have a look at what Blackburne does. The old Black Death, as he's called, there he is. He's got two castles working. He's got one controlling a semi-open file. He's got one castle controlling an open file. And he's got all his pieces, the two bishops and the queen, all around the Black King. So I think the Black Death is king hunting. What do you reckon? King hunting. Yes, that's what we call it. Black plays h6. Okay? Yeah, a more accurate move might have been bishop to e6. Okay? Anyway, let's see what Blackburne does. He plays bishop to e8. Bishop to e8. And he wants to play a big queen checks. Right? Okay? Now, Black says, well, hey, you're not going to check me. So he moves his bishop. Black moves his bishop to e6. And now, look at this position. What would you play here? What would you play? Well, Blackburne didn't think twice. He played rook takes bishop. Rook takes bishop, right? And took away one of the defending pieces of the Black position. And Black played pawn takes back, and Black was thinking at the time, well, you can't check me with the queen because my bishop takes. So what have you got now? And you can't play bishop takes pawn check. Well, here it comes. The Black Death, this is, as he's called, bang, rook checks. He gives up his rook, right? He gives up his rook, so his queen can penetrate. And now the next move is forced. Bishop takes rook. And now the Black Death brings his big almighty queen into the attack. Queen checks. Now if the king goes back, then the queen would take the bishop checkmate. So the king goes there, the queen would take the bishop checkmate, right? And so the king must go forwards. And now Blackburne takes the bishop with check, and the king must move forwards. So he's chasing this king all the way over to the other side of the board. And now his bishop, which is on the king's side, he says, well, I'm not using that piece. So he comes over with a bishop check as well. Okay? There's only one move on the board, king to b4. And now Blackburne goes queen takes pawn check. And now it's looking a very, very sorry sight. But now, what move would you play here? Well, Blackburne plays pawn checks. And now the bishop, of course, he says, Black's thinking, oh, really good. He's thinking he could take it off. How wonderful is that? I think I'm safe now, he's thinking. But here it comes. I'll give you 1 minute to have a look at this and see whether you can find what Blackburne played as white. And he played it blindfolded too. Can you see the move? He gave away a bishop. Bishop checks. And now have a look. The black king can't move anywhere. He has to take the bishop. And then the queen, the almighty queen, in she goes. Queen takes rook, checkmate. Now how brilliant is that? To play a game that brilliant and do it all blindfolded. Well, I hope my chess students on my chess channel can do as well as Blackburne in the future. If they do 1/10 as well as Blackburne did in the future, well then I'd be a successful chess coach. Thank you very much for joining me today with this video, and I will be releasing more videos shortly. And if you would like the video, please click the thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. Okay? And if you don't like what you've been presented, you may not, and you think I can do better with my videos and you have suggestions, I'm very, very, very happy to listen to what you've got to say. And to support the channel, of course, my PayPal link is in the video description. Thank you again, and you have a good day. And until next time, I'll be there, and I'll be streaming live on Twitch on Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays, and I'll be making more YouTube videos for your pleasure and enjoyment. Bye now.